What's going on, everybody? So, a question was posed to me about why certain individuals' prayers may not be getting answered. And that's actually something I want to discuss and talk to everyone about. Why sometimes it may feel like what you're asking for, you're not getting. Does God actually hear your prayers? Is God interested in your prayers? And if he is, why isn't he answering you? Well, one thing that we do have to take into consideration, when you pray, are we really praying according to God's will? Now think about this. The reason why I say this, if you think about Scripture, everything that Jesus prayed for, he got. And not only did he get it, he got it right away. Jesus is our example in everything. So if Jesus prayed and he got something right away, then we ought to be able to, right? That's a yes and a no. Yes, we should be, because if we're doing like Jesus, we'll get exactly what we ask for when we ask. The reason I say no is because a lot of times, unlike Jesus, we don't pray for things that are according to God's will. And that's why our prayers don't get answered all the time. The Bible clearly tells us you have not because you ask not. You also have not because your prayers are in a miss, because you're praying for things that you don't need so that you may consume it upon your lust, the writer says. I truly believe Matthew chapter 21 verse 22, I believe, where it says that whatever you ask in prayer, believing, it shall be so. I believe that. The most important thing, though, is that we have to ask according to God's will. And I'll give you an example of that. Is it God's will that I have a $111,000 brand new Chevrolet Corvette? Or is it God's will that I stop having a short fuse and letting things get me so angry very quickly? Which one is God's will? To stop me from being angry and have me be at peace so that I may show his character to other people who may not know him? Or is it more so God's will for me to have a $111,000 Corvette so that I can drive around and possibly get myself in debt because I don't have the money to afford it, and possibly have other things that I probably don't want to happen to me, like expensive car bills, people possibly thinking that I have more money than I actually do. You have to think about it. The things that God desires for us are actually uplifting, not simply for ourselves, but are for others as well, because our entire life, our entire point of being is other-centered love, much like God's, so that we can bring other individuals into his kingdom, so that we can save as many people as possible, because God is willing to save to the utmost. So we ought to ourselves desire that same thing. So the next time that you may feel that God isn't listening to you, in certain aspects you have to really consider, are we really praying according to God's will? Or are we praying for things that we selfishly desire so that we may consume it upon our lust? I know it's not an easy thing or an easy concept to really accept or hear, but my friends, we really have to understand that in a lot of things, God has truthfully blessed his children. And because of the world that we live in, we do not understand or desire to be content or happy with what God has given us. And that makes us unhappy people, and it makes us believe that God isn't blessing us when he actually truthfully is, because the riches of heaven are of more value and worth than the corruption and wealth that you may get on the earth that seems at the moment pleasant to the eye. My brothers and sisters, that's your word for today. God bless you, but it is time to wake up.